The clinic I built from scratch locked me out like I was a stranger. That's how it started. Not a meeting. Not a phone call. Just an error message on a login screen, access denied, administrator permissions required. My own system. My own clinic. My name still painted on the glass door, and suddenly, I didn't exist in it anymore. At first, I thought it was a glitch. I called IT. Jared, one of the new guys, whispered like he was afraid someone would hear him, "I'm sorry, Dr. McAllister. They told us the system's under new administration now." I thought you knew. I didn't. 2 hours later, I walked into the clinic, my clinic, and the receptionist Claire gave me that look you never want to see. The "I can't tell you what's going on but you're about to find out" look. Kevin stepped into the hallway before I made it to my office. Kevin Reynolds. My business partner of 9 years. The man who toasted with me the night we hung the Harmony Creek Family Clinic sign. The man who'd been at my daughter's graduation, who'd cried at my husband's memorial. The man who, apparently, decided I was expendable. "Maria," he said, lifting his hands like he was calming a skittish animal. "I've been meaning to talk to you." "You changed the admin permissions," I said. "Why?" He smiled, polite and practiced. "Let's not do this here. Come to my office." "No." "Say it now." A couple of nurses peeked out of exam rooms. The hallway went still. He straightened his tie. "There's been a restructure. Legally, the clinic's majority control has shifted under my name for tax reasons and you rewrote the ownership paperwork. It was necessary for operational efficiency," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Maria, let's be honest. You're a wonderful physician. You're beloved. But the clinic needs to grow beyond your style." "My style?" "Your handmade muffins, your birthday cards, your long appointments. It's charming, but it's not scalable. Patients these days want wellness plans, Botox, telehealth subscriptions. We're bringing in people who can deliver that." I blinked at him. "You're offering me a job in my own clinic." He gave a little shrug. "You'd keep your panel. We'd pay you well. You'd be a contractor instead of an owner. It's a generous offer." My throat tightened. For a second, all I could hear was the hum of the hallway lights. I turned and walked out. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't scream. I just sat behind the wheel staring at the building I'd mortgaged my house to open. 10 years ago, I was working 12-hour shifts at County General, drowning in bureaucracy and watching patients get lost in a system that cared more about billing codes than people. I used to come home, peel off my scrubs, and wonder what I was doing with my life. I wasn't burned out. I was disillusioned. That's when the idea started. I wanted something small, honest, direct. A community-based clinic where we'd treat people like humans, not line items. I spent 4 years saving, signed a second mortgage, and opened Harmony Creek Family Clinic. Kevin was supposed to be the business mind. I was the heart. We shook hands, split the ownership, and opened our doors. I poured everything into that place. Every weekend. Every holiday. Every night spent on call instead of at my daughter's school plays. I was the one who stayed late to comfort crying patients. I was the one who sent sympathy cards, who remembered every child's name, who delivered donated groceries to our seniors when their checks ran late. Kevin handled the spreadsheets. And somewhere in all of that, he stopped seeing me as a partner. He saw me as a hurdle. 3 weeks before the lockout, the warning signs had started, but I ignored them. Kevin brought in consultants. They took photos of the break room, asked about productivity metrics, charted appointment times. Not a single stethoscope in sight. A week later, one of our vendors emailed me saying the account contact had changed to Kevin Reynolds, sole administrative contact. I asked him about it. He smiled. "Just a reorg thing, Maria. Nothing to worry about." 2 days later, Evelyn Jensen, one of our first patients, sat in my exam room and said, "Your new manager told me you're only part-time now." My heart dropped. Who told you that? That young man. Kevin. He said you're moving into consulting. He even introduced me to a new nurse practitioner who'd be taking your place soon. I smiled for her sake. Inside, I felt the floor tilt. That afternoon, I asked him straight out. Are you planning to replace me? He laughed. Don't be dramatic, Maria. We're just planning for scalability. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, after he tried to hand me a contractor's deal in my own hallway, I walked to a cafe across the street and sat there with my laptop open to a locked-out portal. My hands trembled over the keyboard. Text messages from staff buzzed on my phone. I can't believe he did this. We all know who really built this place. So sorry, Dr. McAllister. We're with you. I stared at the screen. My entire life was sitting behind that login. Then, almost without thinking, I opened another window. My private backups. 6 years of records, every patient file, every appointment metric, every protocol I'd built, all encrypted, all mine. I hadn't backed up our data because I expected betrayal. I did it because I was careful. Because I knew systems fail. Because I never wanted a patient to suffer because of an admin glitch. Turns out, my caution might be the key to everything. 2 days later, an envelope arrived by courier. Termination of ownership rights due to non-alignment of business growth goals. A clause buried in a renewal agreement we'd signed 5 years ago. Kevin's signature next to mine. I sat in my darkened kitchen reading it 3 times. My daughter asleep upstairs. The hum of the fridge the only sound. He'd taken everything. Or thought he had. That Sunday, I went to the community garden near my old neighborhood. I sat on a bench with my coffee, staring at the tomato plants. A young mother with a toddler recognized me. You're Dr. McAllister, right? You treated my son last year, when no one else would. I nodded. She hesitated. People are talking. We miss you. It's not the same without you. Something shifted inside me. He might have taken the walls, the chairs, the check-in counter, but the soul of that clinic wasn't a lease or a logo. It was me. And the people I'd cared for. And I was about to remind everyone of that. Because you don't erase a healer and expect her to disappear. I didn't show up to the clinic's anniversary party. I just sat in my car and watched their live stream, and when they toasted under the banner I painted, I cried in a Walgreens parking lot. I didn't mean to cry. I thought I was past all that. But there I was, coffee going cold in the cup holder, my laptop propped on the dashboard, and the same banner I hung 5 years ago stretched across the Harmony Creek front desk. Kevin stood underneath it like he belonged there, like he was the one who sanded and painted that old reception counter or stayed after hours to fix the broken blood pressure monitor. He gave a speech about reinventing the future of healthcare while holding a glass of something sparkly, flanked by 2 new nurse practitioners I didn't recognize. One of them laughed at something he said. The sound made my stomach turn. I watched until they posed for a group photo under the sign, the one I chose, the one that used to mean something, and then I closed the window. My reflection stared back at me in the dark screen, eyes red-rimmed, jaw tight. I didn't look broken. I looked still. And I knew that stillness wasn't surrender. It was the deep, cold quiet that comes right before the storm. I didn't respond when Gina, one of our longtime nurses, texted "Wish you were here." It's not the same. There wasn't anything to say. She knew it wasn't the same. Everyone who'd been there at the beginning did. But I also knew something else. When you've been erased, the most powerful thing you can do is go silent. Let them get used to your absence. Let them think you're gone. Then make them feel it. For the next few weeks, I vanished. That's what it looked like to everyone else. I didn't call the staff. I didn't show my face at the clinic. I didn't post anything, didn't argue, didn't explain. I let Kevin enjoy his little victory. Let him sit in my old office, sipping his flavored espresso and believing the story he'd written about me, the tired, emotional doctor who just couldn't handle growth. Let him think I was home, sulking in my bathrobe, binge-watching daytime TV and Googling early retirement. I wasn't sulking. I was rebuilding. Quietly. Deliberately. And no one saw it coming. I started by giving myself the thing I hadn't had in 10 years, space. I let myself sleep in until the light came through the windows on its own. I brewed real coffee, not that burnt drip from the break room, and sat outside on my back porch with a notebook in my lap, the kind with thick, creamy pages. For a few days, I didn't write anything. I just let it sit there, blank and waiting. It felt symbolic. Like my life had been reset to a clean page, not because I asked for it, but because someone tore out the last chapter without my permission. Eventually, the words came. Names. Dates. Patterns. Ideas. Not revenge, not yet. Just information. But every list, every memory, every patient's story, it built a map in my head. I wasn't planning destruction. I was tracing truth. Meanwhile, Kevin flourished. At least, on the surface. I started seeing his name in places it never used to be. A glossy full-page ad in the Sunday paper featured his photo, standing next to a smiling senior couple under the new clinic logo, Harmony Health and Glow. Gone was the family practice branding. Now it was a whole-body wellness center, with new packages offering Botox consults, hormone balancing, IV therapy, and some nonsense called executive resilience coaching. There was a quote from him beneath it: "We're proud to be pushing healthcare beyond outdated traditions." Outdated. That was how he framed me. The woman who founded the clinic. The one who built it from nothing. But he was just getting started. A few days later, I stumbled on a press release from the Chamber of Commerce. Kevin was speaking at their monthly luncheon, delivering a talk titled "Disrupting the Old Model: How Private Clinics Can Lead the Way." I stared at it for a long time. He hadn't just taken the building. He was rewriting the narrative, making himself the hero, the visionary, the builder. And in his version of the story, I didn't even exist. I didn't respond. I just copied the article and saved it to a folder on my desktop. Then I called my old mentor, Dr. Nancy Holloway. We hadn't spoken in years, but as soon as I told her what happened, she said, "Well, damn. That boy always struck me as the type to walk around in someone else's shoes and act like he made them." We met for breakfast at a diner off the highway. I told her everything. She listened, then leaned forward and said, "What do you want to do?" I didn't hesitate. "I want to tell the truth. But I want to do it the right way." Her smile was slow and fierce. "Then let's start there." She handed me a list of private donors and small grant programs, mostly people who still believed in community medicine, in care that wasn't tangled up in billing code gymnastics. She also connected me with a retired doctor who ran a mobile clinic out of a refurbished van. "He's been thinking of expanding," she said. "And he's heard your name before." That night, for the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't anger or sadness. I felt clarity. A few days later, I ran into Claire, the clinic's receptionist, at the grocery store. She spotted me first, called out my name quietly between the cereal and canned beans. I hadn't expected to see her, and for a second I froze. But when I turned around, her face said everything. "They're scrambling," she said in a low voice, glancing around us like she might get caught. "Patients are asking why your name isn't on anything anymore. And Kevin, he's trying to spin it." I raised an eyebrow. "Spin it how?" She gave a bitter smile. "He told us to say you retired. That you wanted something slower. Said you couldn't keep up with the modern direction of care." I stared at her, and for a moment, my chest went tight. "And you went along with that?" She looked away. "At first. But I've stopped repeating it. I just tell people I'm not sure where you are." I nodded slowly. "Good. Let them wonder." Then she added something that stopped me cold. "He started pulling your photos off the walls. Even the community board. Said it was confusing for patients." She hesitated. "It feels like he's trying to erase you." For a second, something in me flared, not just anger, but something sharper. Cold. Focused. He can try, I said. But he can't rewrite what people remember. And people were remembering. Evelyn Jensen emailed me through an old contact form I forgot I had. She'd moved to a new provider, but said they didn't ask about her cat or remember her daughter's name or double-check her meds. It's like being treated by a kiosk, she wrote. I miss being seen. I met her for tea, and she held my hand across the table, her grip shaky but firm. You always saw us, she said. Even when we didn't see ourselves. I didn't tell her everything. Not yet. But I promised I was working on something. And when I said it, I meant it. I started holding quiet check-ins at the library, short visits with former patients who reached out and asked if I could just take a look at a rash, a blood pressure spike, a med interaction. I didn't charge them. I didn't advertise it. But word spread. One afternoon, the room filled with 3 families in a row, all people who said the same thing as they left: let us know when you're back. We'll follow you. Each time, I smiled. Soon, I'd say. Soon. Then one morning, I got a call from an old friend, a local web designer who used to treat his kids at my clinic. He'd heard what happened, and without me asking, said, "You ever need a site? A logo? A booking system? I'll do it for free. People need doctors who give a damn." I added his name to my notebook. That evening, I sent a single message. To Kevin. Just 7 words: enjoy it while it lasts. It took him 3 minutes to reply. Appreciate the well wishes. Clinic's thriving. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I whispered to myself, good. That'll make the crash even louder. I opened an email by mistake and found my name still being used to sell the clinic I no longer owned. It hit my inbox at 7:42 a.m. on a Thursday. No subject line. Just a PDF and a 1-line message: please see updated roles before Friday's meeting. Signed by Kira, Kevin's new administrative assistant. She wasn't supposed to send it to me, but she had, and for a moment, I just stared at the screen, unsure whether to laugh or to throw my coffee across the room. My name sat there, Dr. Maria McAllister, neatly typed between 2 new hires under the heading clinical staff, returning providers. It wasn't a typo. In the margin, someone had added a note: need to finalize Maria's re-entry timeline. For a few long seconds, the words blurred. He was planning to fold me back in, not as a partner, not even as a real physician, but as a face. A prop. A relic he could roll out to reassure the old patients, then shove into a back office once they signed up for his new model. He was still using me. My name. My reputation. My work. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and felt my heart hammer. It wasn't humiliation anymore. It was something colder, a clarity that almost tasted metallic. Because every time Kevin tried to polish his story, every time he tried to reshape me into some minor character in his grand plan, he handed me another piece of evidence. Another contradiction. Another gap in the narrative. And I was done collecting out of habit. Now I was building something. That same morning, I clicked over to the clinic's new website. On the homepage, a carousel of patient testimonials rotated. I froze on the 3rd one. It was a quote I remembered, a mother thanking me by name for saving her newborn's life. Only now the testimonial ended with "thanks to Dr. Kevin Reynolds." My name had been replaced. My work had been repurposed. My reputation had been stolen wholesale. I didn't scream. I didn't even screenshot it right away. I just sat there with my palms pressed to the desk, letting the fury burn through me until it settled into resolve. Then I copied every page, every testimonial, every cached version of my bio photo still hiding in the site's subfolders. This wasn't just theft. This was impersonation. And it would not hold. Meanwhile, Kevin was out in the world preening. I saw him everywhere now. A full-page ad in the Sunday paper announced Harmony Health and Glow, leading the future of care. Gone was the family clinic branding. Now it was whole-body wellness, Botox packages, executive resilience coaching, hormone balancing. In the press release he called me a wonderful early influence who had since retired to focus on family. Retired. Focus on family. As if I'd walked away willingly. But the real punch came from a podcast clip someone forwarded me. Kevin leaned back in his chair, voice warm and smooth, and said, "When I co-founded Harmony Health, I always knew we had to move beyond emotional models of care and into efficient, data-driven systems. Patients don't want long chats about their day. They want results." He chuckled. My former partner was great at muffins and morale, but this is a new era. I watched his face as he said it, that little smirk, the glint in his eyes, and felt my jaw tighten. He wasn't just erasing me. He was mocking me. And yet, even then, I didn't fire back. I just saved the clip. I was making a mosaic, and his words were perfect tiles. By then, I had quietly built a small legal advisory team. One of them, Darla, specialized in intellectual property disputes. When I showed her the testimonial switch and the podcast quotes, she whistled low. The longer they keep this up, the stronger your case gets. Don't tip your hand. I promised I wouldn't. And I meant it. Still, it was hard to stay quiet. The almost confrontation came sooner than I expected. I was at the co-op clinic space, the one I'd been using twice a week to consult for free with patients who didn't trust Kevin's new staff. I was just finishing a blood pressure check when I heard his voice in the hallway. Deep, rehearsed, jovial. My stomach clenched. Kevin. He was there with a woman in a sharp blazer, gesturing at the ceiling tiles like he was inspecting the place for purchase. He hadn't seen me yet. I stepped behind a file cabinet, heart pounding. I could have slipped out the back. I should have. But one of the nurses called across the room, "Maria, do you have that cuff?" And he turned. Surprise flickered across his face before it hardened into a smile. He walked over casually, like this was brunch. "Well, this is unexpected," he said, hands in his pockets. "Still keeping busy?" I gave him a polite, unreadable smile. "Just helping out. You know me." He chuckled. "Always the caregiver. That's one thing about you, heart before hustle. But the world's moving fast. People don't care about muffins anymore. They care about metrics." I tilted my head slightly. "And you've always been the opposite." His eyes narrowed, but his smile stayed. "We should catch up. There might be room for you in the new model. Legacy faces matter. Patients need continuity." He said it like a gift. Like he was doing me a favor. For a second, my throat burned with the words I wanted to say, about the testimonials, the podcast, the theft. I could have thrown it all at him right there. But I didn't. Because timing is everything, and I wasn't going to waste mine on a hallway spat. "I'm sure you'll manage," I said instead. "Enjoy it while it lasts." He paused, eyes flicking over me as if trying to read something he couldn't see. Then he smiled again and turned back to his companion. I watched him walk away, my hands clenched behind my back. That night, I called Evelyn Jensen's granddaughter. She'd mentioned her niece was a videographer studying public health media. "She's always looking for real stories," she'd said. I left a voicemail. I might have something for her, if she's interested in stories about truth and reputation. By the next morning, the girl had emailed me a full proposal. Things were moving. Meanwhile, Kevin was setting himself up on a higher stage. He scheduled a town hall meeting, a live Q&A with patients and community leaders to show transparency. It was being held at the same community center where we'd once hosted free diabetes screenings together. I heard about it through a former patient, and I knew instantly, this was it. The peak. The higher he climbed, the harder the fall would be. 2 days before the event, Claire sent me a final coded message. "He pulled your photo from the website today. Said it was time for the last trace to be gone." I stared at the text, the glow of the screen reflecting in the dark window beside me. He thought he'd erased me. He thought I was gone. He thought he'd won. I opened the folder on my laptop labeled Truth. Inside was every testimonial, every cached page, every email, every staff message, every patient quote, every podcast clip, every date and timestamp. Proof that the clinic's soul, and its reputation, had always been mine. I hovered over the upload button of the shared drive I'd quietly created. "I'm not building a case," I whispered. "I'm building a reckoning." Then I clicked. He was standing on stage under a banner with a name he stole from me when the audience stopped clapping, because they'd all just read what he did. I stood in the back corner of the community auditorium, close enough to see the sweat forming at Kevin's temples, far enough not to be noticed. He'd rented out the space, the same one where we used to do flu shot drives and free screenings together, for his big town hall on the future of wellness. Rows of folding chairs were filled with local press, donors, business leaders, and a mix of new and longtime patients. His marketing team had billed it as a night of transparency and progress. What it became was something else entirely. I had chosen that moment carefully. Not randomly. Not emotionally. Strategically. My legal team had held back the Truth folder for weeks while we cleaned every sentence, timestamped every record, checked every HIPAA box, and confirmed our chain of custody for each screenshot, clip, and testimonial. We wanted it airtight. We wanted it unshakable. And now, as Kevin opened his speech with a smug, "This clinic was founded on innovation, community, and compassion," the public saw the truth. My truth. Because I had hit send myself. No assistant, no lawyer. I sent the packet to every local journalist, health board member, nonprofit donor, and civic group leader, with a single subject line: "The story behind the curtain." I posted it on my new website, on the patient message board I'd built quietly over the last 3 months, and in a private Facebook group I'd started under my own name, where over 600 patients had joined to stay in touch. The materials were crystal clear. They showed the real timeline of events, how Kevin had rewritten our operating agreement while I was recovering from surgery, how he'd quietly moved my name down the org chart, how he'd sent emails telling staff not to refer patients back to me. There were screenshots of patient testimonials altered to replace my name with his, insurance forms submitted under my medical license after I was gone, and internal staff memos referring to me as legacy decor. That one, especially, got people heated. One local journalist quoted it in her live tweet with, "Legacy decor?" She was the co-founder. But the part that really cracked the room open came from Evelyn. I had debated including her video. I didn't want to put her in the crossfire. But when her granddaughter said Evelyn insisted that she wanted people to hear her, I trusted her. In the video, Evelyn sat in her recliner with her cat on her lap, the oxygen line visible but her voice firm. She looked into the camera and said, "Dr. Maria saved my life 3 times. When she disappeared, no one told me why. I kept asking. They told me she had retired. But I knew that wasn't true. People don't retire like that. Not when they love what they do. And Maria loved us. She never would have left." That clip was included in every journalist packet. I knew they'd lead with it. I wanted them to lead with it. Because Evelyn wasn't just one patient. She was every patient who had been told their doctor simply faded away. As the video spread, the audience in that auditorium began to shift. I watched it happen, a ripple of stillness in the crowd as phones came out, thumbs scrolled, heads tilted. You could feel it. Like a current moving through water. Kevin noticed it too. His smile faltered mid-sentence. He glanced down, as if hoping his phone would tell him what was wrong. It did. A man in the second row raised his hand and asked, "Can you comment on the testimonial edit your office made to the website?" Kevin blinked. "Excuse me?" "The patient statements. The ones attributed to you but originally credited to Dr. McAllister." The man held up his phone. "They're in this report that's been circulating for the last 10 minutes. Kevin adjusted his mic. He tried to smile. "I can't speak to anonymous documents with questionable sourcing." "Your staff emails are in here," someone else called out. Another voice, "Is it true you filed reimbursements under her license number?" And then someone, I never found out who, asked, why did you call her legacy decor? That one cut straight through. Kevin's face strained. He started flipping through his notes, muttering something about coordinated defamation. But it didn't matter. The room had turned. His words weren't landing anymore. People were reading from their phones, not listening to him. The silence between questions grew heavier. The auditorium, packed just 30 minutes before, began emptying row by row. I stepped out before the end. I didn't need to see the rest. The fallout came fast. Within 24 hours, the clinic's Instagram and Twitter accounts were deactivated. Their main website homepage was replaced with a static message, under review, we'll be back soon. A local health watchdog published a detailed breakdown of the allegations. NPR aired a segment titled Reputation in Ruins, What Happens When Healthcare Loses Its Heart. They invited me on. I said yes. I sat in the studio, across from a soft-spoken host, and calmly told the truth, not just about the betrayal, but about what patients deserve, and how I intended to serve them now. Kevin released a statement through a PR firm. It included words like misunderstanding and legacy transition. It said I had voluntarily stepped back, but that no matter what, he had the utmost respect for Dr. McAllister's contributions. The press didn't buy it. Because 2 days later, a second leak emerged, not from me, but from a staff member who'd quietly resigned after the town hall. It included a memo from Kevin where he wrote, "We need to control the McAllister narrative. Frame it as early retirement or irrelevance." The memo was timestamped a week after I was removed. After that, there was no recovery. 2 major donors pulled out. The Chamber of Commerce withdrew its award nomination. 3 staff members quit. Yelp reviews turned into a war zone. One of the biggest insurers put his provider agreement on hold. And quietly, behind closed doors, the clinic was put up for sale. A regional network picked it up. They rebranded. The name Harmony Health and Glow was scrubbed. The logo was changed. Kevin's title vanished from the staff page without ceremony. He never even got to say goodbye. Meanwhile, I opened my mobile clinic quietly, just a soft rollout through email and word of mouth. Appointments filled immediately. I saw patients I hadn't seen in over a year. I checked vitals, answered questions, wrote prescriptions, held hands. Evelyn came in on the 3rd day. She walked slower now, but her eyes were bright. When she saw me, she said, "There you are. I told them you didn't retire." I smiled and hugged her, and for the first time in what felt like years, I felt like myself again. We didn't need banners or balloons. We didn't need PR firms or wellness influencers. We just needed a table, a chair, and trust. And that was something no one could buy, and no one could steal. Weeks later, I got a message from a local journalist who'd covered the entire fallout. She said, "You know, we've never heard your final thoughts. Is there anything you want to say?" I thought about it. I thought about that day when I'd come to the clinic and found my name gone from the glass door. No note. No explanation. Just absence. I thought about how hard it was to hold still while Kevin took the spotlight, how tempting it was to lash out before I was ready. I thought about everything I'd built with bare hands and sleepless nights, and how good it felt to take it back on my own terms. So I told her. They took my name off the door. So I built one with my name above it, and this time, no one else has the keys.